Good evening, everybody. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's session, which is about the latest book released by Aakar Publications. The book is titled 12 Skills for Employability. So, if you are someone who is constantly thinking about skill development, upskilling, unskilling, then this session is for you. So, stick around. I am going to be your host for the evening. My name is Tiya Chatterji. I am an author of two books: Underwater Archaeology in India, The Lost Enigma and Horrors of the Sea. I am a marine archaeologist and a scuba diver. I am also the founder and CEO of Archaic Minds, a one stop solution for all your creative and knowledge based services. We deal in a lot of things, starting from content creation to content development, photography, designing, academic and non academic research, and so on. So let's dive into today's topic. The significance of continual learning, skill refinement, and acquisition cannot be emphasized enough. However, what often remains lacking is a clear, straightforward guide which empowers individuals to steer their growth journey effectively. 12 Skills for Employment by Bharat Srinivas fills this gap. With extensive expertise, Bharat offers a straightforward guide for navigating professional development. What distinguishes this book is its simplicity. It is written in accessible language and structured for young professionals entering the job market. Each chapter offers actionable insights grounded in real world applicability, marketing in a practical blueprint for achievement. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, engineer, or marketer, this book provides a pathway to success. Now, who is Bharat Srinivas? Late Bharat Srinivas was an MBA graduate from the Kells College of Business at Pittsburgh State University, USA, and held a master's degree in public relations and communications from Leeds Beckett University, United Kingdom. He had nearly 20 years of experience in skills training. Bharat successfully trained over 10,000 students and executives throughout his career. Notably, he served as a trainer under the Indian government's Ministry of Skills Development and Entrepreneurship's Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Now, what's special about today's session is that we also have a very distinguished speaker with us. So I'll use this opportunity to introduce her now. Dr. Vishakha Sen is a PhD in English language and literature. She's working as an assistant professor with IILM University, Greater Noida. She likes mentoring youth in leadership and soft skills employability. Dr. Vishakha Sen is also a creative writer, poet, and painter. So let's not waste any more time and get into today's session. I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Vishakha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tia. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you and Khyati today at our talk discussion. Now, coming on to how Bharat Srinivas and Khyati envisioned this book on employability, the main focus of Srinivas has been accountability. And as we were discussing today as well, in the very first gratitude, he says that he has learned accountability, which is, of course, lacking in today's generation. And this book addresses this crisis, this issue, most importantly. And in the foreword, as well as Mr. Kent MacDonald has appreciated Srinivas, how he focused on, exploration in a very insightful way to see how one should consistently evolve and progress in their employability skills, even though if they are in a mid-career or they are in a starting position or they have achieved a good amount of experience in their career. So, what I loved about this book and why I want it for all the youth, young learners, all the higher education learners, I want it to be read because this book is actually aiming at the practices and not just the theory of employability. Now, students nowadays think that employability is, achieved in a snap. They lack that patience. Career building is what Srinivas focuses on. And he says that to build career, there has to be an optimum environment, there has to be experiences. It is a step-by-step process, and not what people think that you'll achieve in a snap. Because there is a lot of sense of responsibility that, I mean, I'm sure you and I have experienced through our own learning during the start of our own career. And that is what this current generation must realize. So before embarking in any internship, like Srinivas also mentions, before thinking that will I receive certificate or not, or will I receive a handful amount or not, and will I be placed and what will be my CTC? The most important thing is these questions are incorrect. We should ask correct questions. The student should wonder, what will I learn? What employability skill should I scale? And how should I escalate my own learnings and experiences? So when a student has clarity about what he wants in his goal achieving, in his new job or in his new career, this book will be a guidebook. This will be exactly that help book that will take students and motivate them to dive in deeper rather than jumping off to conclusions. Oh, I'm tired and I'm unable to work, and I'm not satisfied, because results come, good things happen in good time. It takes time, and that's what this book teaches us.
Do you also think, because you're from the teaching profession, do you also think that this generation somehow it does not have the patience, or probably there's this word, I think it's this generation is all about instant gratification, like you said, they'll ask incorrect questions and they don't have the patience. So is it true that they don't have the patience, and why do you think, as a teacher, why is it happening? Is it happening at home? Is it happening at the school curriculum? And what can we do about it?
Now there is a whole crisis in the whole system that is going on. Quickly speaking, from school life, see, parents are caregivers, they are not robots, but the teachers and parents are being
Yeah.
pushed in a very WhatsApp kind of atmosphere,
Mhm.
that you have to monitor everything via social media. Is that even necessary? I don't think so. And then with that habit and nature, when that little child is growing into teens and then heading on to become an adolescent
Mhm.
learner, they think that my presence or my affirmation on the media or on the WhatsApp is more valid than what I receive in the report card or what my mentor says. And listening
Mhm.
skill is something that Srinivas focuses on. That is actually the biggest crisis
Yeah.
today, today's learners. If they start working on the listening skill and the atmospheres, the environments, the school, the colleges, if they push it more, these learners will actually change in their behavior. And another thing is what we call popcorn brain. So this
Mhm.
instant gratification that you mentioned, you know,
Yeah.
at times the students are scrolling and learning. Ma'am, we will learn from YouTube, or ma'am, we will practice
Yeah.
coding, any online website.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
time interval is fine, but say,
Mhm.
10 to 15 hours out of 24 hours you're devoting on devices, that's unhealthy.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
dopamine that is being released, it is creating an
Mhm.
addiction in the students,
Yeah.
and it is creating a great psychological, mental health issue, which is again reflected in the
Mhm.
person. And this is where this book
Yeah.
guides us. It awakens us that, see, skills, of course, you will achieve, but what should be
Mhm.
the right path to seek it? So it's time that we
Mhm.
start seeking the right path than, worrying about the destination. So Srinivas
Yeah.
absolutely creates that journey for that student through his book.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're very right, and this also makes me wonder that would it help that if we could get some sort of, say, mentorship, or maybe more informally, should we have a guru like we used to have in the earlier times, like you said. It's more important to understand which how to basically which path to pick, and not worry about where the path is going to lead us. So do you think this book probably could be that mentor, and could we also come up with other ideas of mentorship or something like that which could help these youth and the students and children to follow that correct path, choosing that path? What do you think about that?
Definitely, Tia. I mean, Srinivas focused on a REAP model in this book, that was
Mm-hmm,
read, educate, and experience, and then,
mm-hmm,
empower and practice. Now, under this model, teachers can actually use this model because he focuses on the experiential learning most of the time. He's saying that
mm-hmm.
internship is important, getting experiences is important, but there has to be someone to correct us at times, and it cannot be
Yeah,
AI. It cannot be a
yeah,
self-paced online course which will,
yeah, yeah.
never tell us where we went wrong. It will only tell us how we score, where we stand. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
how long will we stand there? Who will push us forward? That cannot happen in
Mm.
online learning. And this was also a burning issue in today's Technofest that our university has been organizing. And there was a debate
Yeah.
question, that can technology overcome teachers in
Mm.
learning? It can never. So, Tia, I have a question. Like, do you think there is any e-learning
Mm.
that is free of cost? There is none.
No, no,
You will need
absolutely not.
money for internet. You will
Yes,
need
yes,
money for, logging in. Any kind of cost is
yeah,
absolutely there in internet learning. But you
yeah,
go to a teacher in today's generation as well. I vouch and I represent the teaching fraternity, the higher education
yes,
fraternity, and I can vouch you, the student has financial crisis, the teacher will teach at free. So
yeah.
that is what Srinivas vouches in his book. And he says that, it's time that we actually start taking mentoring seriously. So in our time, it was kind of monitoring, but today we have a more holistic process of mentoring.
Mhm.
So why not take it up? And, all the universities and colleges, and I'm
Yes,
sure schools must start such kind of mentoring in a very rigorous manner.
yeah. I think it really makes sense, and also I kind of find it relatable. Although I'm not from the teaching fraternity, but when I do interact with the youth, I can relate to it. Coming back to since we're talking about this book, um, do you think there's also this growing problem of the reduced attention span? We are all reading and talking about how Instagram and various other uh, you know um, reasons or aspects have actually led to our decreased attention span. So do you think that students or the youth actually stops reading books once, say, the course is completed? Or I mean, I see very less people, the youth, who's reading books. And I'm also talking about the Kindle fad is now over. Earlier it was like, oh, I cannot carry books, so I'm going to read it on Kindle, but now that's not happening. How do we deal with that? Because reading is extremely important. And since we're talking about a book, how do we also focus on this aspect? How do we ensure that this message is passed on, or this habit is inculcated, that people don't stop reading books, the youth especially, or the students, once the course is over?
So actually, nobody taught us reading. If you remember, there was no reading skill. But you won't
Yeah.
believe, it will be a shock that we are teaching muscle reading, SQ3R. We are actually teaching reading
Yeah.
skills. We are endorsing it, pushing it to students that it is an important aspect and skill. That is the first step towards employability. So
Uh-huh.
for that, I believe it has to be, in the campus culture. It has to be in the societal culture as well. So of
Mm-hmm.
course there
Yeah.
is social media affirmation for everything, and there
Mm-hmm.
are web pages, and there is Aakar publications, I believe, who have made these books available both offline, online, on university requests. And
Mhm.
that's how we need that whole culture to work towards it.
Yeah.
So giving
Yeah.
an example of, say, any event, or any stand-up comedy, or the kind of promotion that nowadays works,
Yeah.
the kind of
Yeah.
SEO and optimization that works, I
Yeah.
think it has to come from teachers as well, and from publishers as well. There has to be a new wave in the publishing and the reading and writing sector, that and I mean reinforces the need of reading. And this is the time, it is not a crisis, I believe it is an opportunity for us. Though I
Mhm.
am coming from that teaching area, where we are facing a lot of crisis when it comes to students performance, attention,
Yeah.
and how Srinivas's book is also addressing these things, that for employability you need to experience each skill. You have to learn each skill, build it in your personality, in your character. Because, see, verbal, non-verbal, body language, all these are part of character. I
Yeah.
convey to my students upfront. It is not even just professional identity. It is our character that we show. So somehow,
Yeah.
these books and reading helps
Mhm.
us to correct our character, our perspective quickly. Then
Yes.
I refute that any reel would, or any visible uh, social
Yeah.
media would. So to trust, to
Yeah.
believe, it has to be from human to human, and
Yeah.
connecting an Indian reader with an foreign writer, or Indian reader with Indian writers, like Bharat Srinivas, who is very passionate, who has been passionate about youth, and he has been passionate about uh, taking it forward, navigating through
Yeah.
professional development. I believe reading has to be now reinforced in a very serious manner. And I'm sure publishers like Aakar publications would actually bring up, new ideas, just like today's
Yeah.
panel discussion as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, yeah, that's a good idea. And I think it makes more sense because it cannot be actually centered, in one aspect, or it's not the job of one person or like one sector. I think I really agree that it has to be like a more culture which has to be sort of propagated, and, yeah, we need to develop that culture. I do agree. Uh, Talking about professionals, and we also began with touching upon internship. So there is and I deal with a lot of it at Archaic Minds as well, because when I contact these young people who have just finished their studies, you know so I remember when I've done two masters. When I did my masters, I mean, we did not even have the courage to ask for money because we were all into learning. And I remember my first internship was, I would get lunch and I would just get the metro fare. I was doing my first internship, no, sorry, the second internship when I was doing museum studies. I was interning at the Indraprasth Girls College in Delhi University. And yeah, that's what I was getting, but I was so happy because I was seeing that archive being made from scratch. And that experience has been with me till now. And I've definitely capitalized on it, and I feel very proud of it, and I've got a certificate. But that's not what the youth wants today. So I think one question on behalf of the youth, because I encounter this a lot, is that do freshers actually need to do internship? Is it important? Because um, I think they have a very different mindset when it comes to internship. And I think it's also kind of influenced with the west, from the west, sorry, because in the west, there's a culture that you get paid for everything you do. So they are coming from that mindset that, oh, we are giving you our time. Even if you don't know anything, we are giving you our time. So we need to get paid. So what are your thoughts about, this?
No, Tia, you have absolutely touched upon the very, that nerve of the problem that the students have today. The point is, our Indian culture is based on collectivism. Western culture is based on individualism. Today's Gen Z is facing a dilemma between choosing collectivism or individualism. But I believe I also tried to prove it in my thesis as well by comparing Indian self and Western self, that the Indian self today, the Indian students today, they need to create a balance between their needs, desires, wants, and wishes. There are these
Yeah.
clear, different markers. And like you
Mm-hmm.
had the clarity, for you, the priority was that learning our, archives from scratch. The
Yeah.
students must know their priority today. And most of the time, I see these students, as you mentioned, that they have misunderstood the idea of internship. It is the best kind of learning that anyone can have, but money should not be its ask. The ask should
Yeah.
be experiential learning and practical learning, practical atmosphere. And once
Yeah.
these students start working on with that kind of behavior, of course, Bharat's book is also addressing it, how they will create that kind of habit and mindset. uh, they will absolutely, gain from internship, whether or not it is paid or it is unpaid. The point is that today students are doing a lot of freelancing. So there is a
Mm-hmm.
difference between what freelancing provides you. Of course, it's again a moment of proud that you were getting fare for your commute, and so the student is
Yeah.
also getting some kind of
Yeah.
financial
Some. Yeah.
assistance for from
Mm-hmm.
freelancing. But it should
Yeah.
remain in that. The purpose and agenda should not, change. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that again has to be enforced by family, by society,
Mm-hmm.
by culture. So when neighbor asks, "What is your son doing?" Excuse me, I
Mm-hmm.
think this culture should stop. Rather than they should ask, "Is he healthy? Is he happy?" We pray,
Yeah.
we hope. But that's
Yeah.
not how Indian society works, and that is how this Western is coming in. So until and unless
Yeah.
we create that society, that we will not be, interested in spying and
Yeah.
interested in, intruding boundaries. We will
Mm-hmm.
actually create that professional culture wherein we address problems with solutions, not with uh, judgments. And
Yeah.
that's what
And
this
I
youth
think
needs
somewhere.
today.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think somewhere, like when you brought up this point of society and these uncomfortable questions, I think that is also a very important factor, which is altering this understanding and creating, somewhere it's creating that subconscious pressure on these students and youth that they have to do something worthwhile that they can actually tell. And then of course the social media comes, and what are we going to say and what are our parents going to say, because the parents are also creating that pressure. So I think, yeah, it's a very valid point. Yeah, that has to definitely change. That has to change. um
Like trickle down snowballing that is happening.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. So since we are talking about internships, and so now there's this pressure. So now after the internship now comes the job. So now since we're talking about skills and employability, so often I also get this question a lot. So people have just finished their masters or whatever, they've done their course, and now they ask you, okay, now how do we basically get a job? How do we apply? I mean, it seems like a very easy question, okay, but it's not as easy as it used to be. So it's really complex, I think. So I think it'll be great if you could answer this question. I think it's really going to benefit the viewers. So how does a fresher, like, how do he or she prepares themselves to apply a job or get a job?
So now Srinivas books, he is actually introducing this point, the process of, from realization to recruitment. I would sum it up as it.
Mm-hmm.
First, we try, and of course, we do it in our courses as well. Whenever I create that kind of curriculum, we start developing that realization in the student so that there is
Mm-hmm.
a lot of awareness of what he or she wants to do. And
Yeah.
we all know this fact, not all engineering students become engineers.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
engineering course is just a foundation bachelor's degree, which is again
Yes.
very misunderstood in the, parents of 90s or 80s.
Yeah. Yes.
So somehow we start creating that atmosphere and realization of how you can actually become accountable.
Mm-hmm.
After a course, how worthwhile you can be for any organization. Let us forget big five for a moment. Let us just say, even if
Yeah.
I'm working for a small company or a startup or maybe an NGO to begin with, what am I contributing of what I have
Yeah.
learned? What I have learned.
Yeah.
So I think, this realization is important and it has to be in regular 4 years. We are talking about 4 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
You're talking about
Yeah.
new education policy. We are talking about Viksit Bharat, wherein our,
Yeah.
with all honors, our honorable Prime Minister, thrusts all the responsibility on the teachers.
Yeah.
But has to do a lot with how whole societal psychology works. So
Yeah.
the students have to be, you know, oriented every year till they
Hmm.
reach that point of recruitment wherein they actually know where they are headed. They are not confused that I would apply everywhere in all the companies. There is
Yeah.
actually a company orientation, there is a company research that takes place, there is company orientation that the students goes through, and there is a whole matrix wherein the student matches the employability skills that this book mentions, and this book also has mentioned how you match your character, your likings, dislikes with
Mm-hmm.
what the company vision and mission is. So if you know it
Yeah.
beforehand, you can actually check in, go for an interview, check and
Yeah.
see and experience that, take that learning experience. Interviews will
Yeah.
always remain that wonderful experience, I believe. I love, giving and taking interviews. It has to be more like an experience, not an
Hmm.
examination. It is never an
Yeah.
examination. So we are not judging, we are only assessing. So somehow this understanding has to come, and Srinivas has absolutely done it in a very holistic manner. I'm so happy to read how he builds students into this process. He, in easy language, he has introduced how students can actually prepare, and it begins from day one. It begins from how they have envisioned their career, and how with each step, first your grooming and your professional skills, employability skills, like you're a team worker or not, are you introvert player, or you're extrovert, or how is your personality. We conduct tests, and he has mentioned these in his book as well. And then lately we work on complex questions of creativity, critical thinking, the speaking part, presentations part, the cognitive part as well. A lot to do with how Socrates and how Greek
Hmm.
philosophers have mentioned how we build content, and how we work on ethics. So there is a lot of ethical crisis that is going on. Again, blame it on social media or internet.
Yeah.
So we try and make students authentic. And he has talked about authenticity, accountability. He has talked about patience in his book, and that's how the students have to work towards getting awareness about what kind of job they want to work in, what kind of career they want to have, and also the career shifts. He has also mentioned in his book how students can actually shift career if they want in a period of time. They can explore more options, but we have to make them realize there is always option B and C. It's not the end
Yeah.
of road. So this
Yeah.
societal mentality that happens in the students, that peer pressure,
Mm-hmm.
there is always a road open. Again, as you say, it is through guru and mentors that we can actually help them to look the other side as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice to kind of let the students and let the youth know that there's always a way around. They shouldn't necessarily feel stuck, especially under the societal or any other pressure. And I think a very beautiful thing that you really brought out, which I loved, was that um, interviews are all about experiences, because I have heard so many people who don't want to appear in interviews. They are so kind of log-headed. I'm sorry for the usage of that word, because they feel that, okay, if I've not been selected to this, or if this is slightly diverting from what I want to apply, I will not, even if the company is better or it's going to give them like a greater experience. But they are so shut down in their minds because they think of it as an examination and it is stressful, so they don't want to undertake interviews. So I think, like you very rightly pointed out, that it is such a great way of learning. It's an experience and it teaches us so many things. Like, in museums we say informal learning. Not everything is going to come
Yeah.
from your book. You need to experience,
True.
and like you also mentioned, experiential learning. So yeah, like that's a very valid and beautiful point that you kind of put forth. And I have this really I have this question. What do you feel about work from home concept? And because we've all struggled through it, and it's kind of become the norm. What do you feel about it, and do you think it's sustainable?
So Srinivas mentions adaptability and flexibility as very important skills. And I feel that be it online, offline, work from home, at office, we should not, become stringent and, uh, again, compartmentalize our emotions and thought that I would not or I would not accept a change of environment. The best example is our Indian Army officers, our Indian Navy officers. If you look at them, and as you were mentioning, uh, you keep them in any condition, they will thrive.
Yeah.
It is not
Yes.
surviving if the students believe in their capabilities, in their
Mhm.
abilities, in their learning, if they put faith in themselves, uh, put them in any kind of multidisciplinary career, they will be
Yeah.
able to contribute and work well. This has to again come from books like how Srinivas has mentioned, from writers, from corporate people like you, from teachers like us. It has to be somehow inculcated, transpiring in the psyche of students that I need to focus on my ability rather than the atmosphere I am in. It is all about the seed that is down beneath, how the roots push the soil and grow down beneath before that, seed and that root, brings up into a beautiful flower or plant. So there is a lot that goes within than what is outside. So be it a laptop or be it the office table, the integrity, the professionalism must always remain, but I would always prefer office stable than working from home,
Yeah.
so that I'll have a reason to come back, enjoy with my family, and not
Yeah.
mix my work with
Yes.
my personal
Yeah.
life. And Srinivas has mentioned it in his book very clearly, and I second his thought and belief as well.
Okay. So do you think, because we've spoken so much about this book, being from the teaching fraternity, how do you think this book could be, it could have like a more wider reach? Like maybe it could be sort of recommended in universities, in colleges. Could it be part of, some sort of curriculum? What do you think about it?
Definitely. As we were planning, I'm so happy that we are having this discussion today. Similar discussions, a humble book release, book reading, group book reading, uh, at
Mhm.
various universities, colleges, is how we can actually promote and convey the message of this book to the students, and also the students can then review and record and share their own experience, which I'm sure will be very different for each student, because everyone will
Yeah.
have that readers different readers lens from which they will approach this
Yeah.
book. Because when you read, oh, employability skills for for your development, it's like a pie that the kids run after, but the
Yeah.
taste of it, the learning from it will actually change their life. And I am sure Khyati will come up with more engagements with student board as well, student communities as well. There can be interesting talks and discussions with the students from their own learning and reading of this book. And I'm sure it should be promoted well in the teaching fraternity in the universities and colleges. And I'm happily doing it. And I think more and more teachers should come up and promote and work on this book, because Srinivas was associated with the Pradhan Mantri, Kaushal Vikas Yojana as well. He has trained many young students. So his book is the very foundation of how we think about professionalism, and how we can let a simple student who is carefree, tell him to be professional as well and to enjoy life as well. So this book strikes the
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense, and I totally agree with you. And I think this book is a must read and should be promoted at all levels. And since you're working towards it, Aakar Publications is working towards it. I would like to, also sort of sum it up with talking a little bit about them, because this session today is courtesy Aakar Publications. It's a startup, book publisher. They are based out of Bhiwandi, near Mumbai, and they are into traditional publications, publishing. But what they're also doing is they're also promoting new authors and aspiring authors, including me. Horrors of the Seas, published by Aakar Publications, so do check out their website, and also other lovely books that they've published. And they mainly publish books in fiction and non-fiction as well. So they are doing, an amazing job. And so, this brings us to the end of this session. Thank you so much for allowing me to host this amazing session. And I was able to interact with you. It's been amazing, Dr. Sen. And thank you, Aakar Publications. And I hope that, this can benefit the youth, the students, and together we can do justice with, Dr. Late Srinivas's book. And, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Khyati, and it was lovely talking to you, Tia. And I am sure his soul, Bharat's soul, is still alive with us. His vision is alive with us, and it will keep guiding students ahead. And I'm looking for Aakar Publications to publish my books as well. We would gather along and create more
Definitely.
collaborations ahead in life. And I wish you all the best, Tia, and I wish Aakar
Thank you
Publications
so
a
much.
very bright future for the Indian
Thank you.
writing scenario as well. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right.